Hi, I'm Rico. Stop calling me Hosèà Gear. Welcome to the Ruck, your one-stop rugby shop. Just announced, 2 All Black tests have been confirmed for consecutive Sundays in Wellington and Auckland. The games are Wellington on Sunday, October 11, with Eden Park and Auckland a week later. This is only happening because the New Zealand government is easing isolation restrictions for the Wallabies to train for the 2 tests, which also includes 2 COVID tests, 3 days before arriving and 3 days after arrival. The All Blacks have held the Bledisloe Cup since 2003, and this will be the only 2 times the All Blacks play in New Zealand in 2020, following Australia winning the rights to host Sansa's Rugby Championship. Okay, time to welcome an All Black who was part of the 2011 World Cup winning team who currently plays for the Western Force. If there was ever an All Black version of The Bachelor, he'd be handing out the roses. Ladies and gentlemen, mainly ladies, it's Richard Kahui. Thanks heaps, Richie, for joining us. You've had a pretty full-on sort of last couple of months playing Super Rugby. Bro, just give us a little bit of a brief background on sort of where you're brought up and how you went to play in the Waikato, where you obviously won a couple of titles.
Yeah, it's been a long journey. Still hasn't finished yet. I started playing rugby at about 5 years old back in Tokoroa for the Cargill Bears, which was my primary school. But like I was always sort of not forced to play rugby, but my dad loved footy from the moment I was born. He was just I was always had rugby balls on me, always sort of been sort of pushed towards playing rugby, even to the point where he put goalposts in the front on my front lawn. So I did play all through schools in Tokoroa, and then about 16, I had a coach of mine, Stuart Williams, sit down. It was a Waikato under 16 side, and he said, "Hey, bro, what are you going to do next year?" He knew I was into building, and he thought, "Well, why don't you come up to Hamilton? I'll get you a building apprenticeship, and you can play rugby for my team." And that was kind of the biggest decision I'd ever made. I was still a kid basically, but made a decision that I was going to chase that rugby dream. And so yeah, played a couple of years in Hamilton for Te Rapa, the mighty Te Rapa, the Red and Blues. And then sort of the big break for me, I played Waikato in 2004 with John Mitchell, but the big break was the 2006 season when Paul Williams, who was playing fullback, the Samoan international, playing fullback for the Highlanders, he had a broken leg and had to get the bar in his leg replaced. So I got called down to the Highlanders, and yeah, that was kind of me from there. Played a season for the Highlanders and played the next 7 for the Chiefs, and now back in Super Rugby for the Force, mate. It's been a trip.
No, awesome. I think I actually remember playing against you in your first game for Waikato, or one of your first games. You guys played against North Harbour against us at we played at Eastern Bays Rugby Club over in the Shore, and I think I might have even marked you. I think I played centre that day, and I remember looking across and seeing this tall, skinny fella, and thinking, oh yeah, I should be able to handle him all right. But I think I ended up, clutching at Fresh Air, and I think we lost that game as well. But I vaguely remember, and that was 2004. And geez, what a great start, to your career with the mighty Waikato, and you've had a long career, which is awesome. And just on that, you were 2011, Rugby World Cup in New Zealand. I remember at the time I was in Japan playing my rugby and had to watch, the World Cup from afar, and it just looked like, what an awesome occasion to be a part of that. And then, of course, your contribution to the team heading in through that tournament. And obviously winning the World Cup, with you playing on the wing in that. And, you had a guy like Brad Thorn in that team. Obviously, being in Australia and the influence that he's had. Tell us a little bit about that, what that World Cup experience was like, and a little bit about Brad Thorn being a part of that side.
Yeah, bro. Talking to you, obviously you're a specialist winger, you're an out-and-out winger. Speed, you've got all the tools and the gifts to even look good. You're what I would consider an All Black winger. And then here was me, 2011. I'd played a couple of games for the All Blacks on the wing, but more as a fill-in. Once was for Leon McDonald, had a head knock, so I was asked to fill in on the wing. And Anyway, so I thought like coming to that World Cup, building into like the Tri Nations and that, I thought it was an opportunity for me to try and press Snaky for that number 13 jersey. But again, as usual, I got injured, and in all fairness, Snaky played the best rugby I'd ever seen in 2011 and completely deserved the position. But then tournament rolled around and they asked me to start on the wing against Tonga, and fortunately enough, I managed to get a couple of easy tries, and it kind of set my World Cup up for me. And
that's right.
Like when I talked about you and your abilities as a winger, I didn't have the speed. I don't have the step. I'm not the guy that can score 3 tries, but I think what was sort of unique about that World Cup, after what happened in 2009 in Hamilton with the high balls, it was all about high balls and defence.
That's right. It was,
I think they saw value in me, and Corey Jane as well, with just being able to take care of anything that sort of came our way. So that was probably the reason why I got the nod. It was an amazing experience, right from the opening ceremony right till the last game. And the most probably the thing that I remember the best is actually the bus ride to the ground, where there were hundreds of thousands of Kiwis all dressed in black with their signs, and maybe really emotional on that bus trip. And obviously winning was great, but that build up into that was pretty special. And then, like, you talk about the characters, and you talk about someone like Brad Thorn. He's now coaching here in Queensland for the Reds. He's actually just up the road from where I live here on the Gold Coast. But I suppose as a player, he's always been sort of uncompromising. He's been tough. And when I say tough, I mean tough in how he plays, tough on his preparation. So he's like clockwork with how he prepares. He stretches a lot. What works for him in the gym, he's done and continues to do, probably now, I would say. And I remember one time during the World Cup when a couple of boys went on a night out, when him and Kim Mialamu sort of dressed the boys down in front of the team. It was sort of the best sort of message that I've ever seen delivered, and I can imagine for the Red side, he gives really great team talks, because what he said was bang on, how he said it was bang on, and there was it was not nasty or no malice to it. It was just about challenging the boys to be better. So, looking at the Red side this year, they're starting to peak now, starting to play good footy, and I've got no doubt that he's probably instilled them with the belief that they're good enough, given them the tools to know how to prepare properly. And mate, he's as tough as they come. So there's no soft underbelly there either.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The ultimate professional. Well, I actually remember 2001, long time ago. I was a part of the Crusader side, and me and Brad were DDs as they called them back then, non-playing, and we had to do a bit of training. And I remember it was just me and him doing all this fitness stuff. And then there was one point during that session where we had to do some one-on-one wrestling, and I was like, oh yeah, I was feeling pretty strong. I'd been sort of throwing some tin around in the gym, and I thought, oh yeah, I should be able to hold my own. I had no chance. I was surprised at actually how strong Brad was, in terms of that wrestling sort of movement. It was, man, I remember it clearly, and I'm glad I only did it once. But what a great guy to have in the side. And thinking, I remember watching that World Cup, bro, and you talk about you scoring a couple of those easy tries. I remember you running through half the Tongan forward pack at one point there, and some of those guys are, probably some of the best tacklers in the world. So I think, you give yourself a bit of credit. And I think that was really cool about your game, is you just really ran hard, and it's exactly what, I think the All Blacks needed when you look at the other players that we had, in the side. And man, what a fantastic result. So going, moving on from that, you're obviously a part of a very good Chiefs. I guess there were a few years where the Mighty Chiefs were a very, very good side and got a lot of success. And you were under coach Dave Rennie. Tell us just a little bit about obviously winning those championships, and now that Dave Renz is now the Wallaby coach, just a bit of an insight to what he's like as a coach and even as a guy.
Yeah, I think firstly about the two championships, 12 and 13. I felt like it was long overdue for the Chiefs. We always had a lot of really strong squads, a lot of attacking ability, but we were never able to put it together for the whole season. for all different reasons. But so 12 and 13 was, for me, probably, I know how much the World Cup means to New Zealand. It meant to me as well, but there was something special about those Chiefs finals. I think maybe because, when I went into the All Blacks, I just, I went in there to play, and I didn't have much input on how the team was run or any of that. I just was there purely to play. Where the Chiefs, part of the leadership group, and you put a bit more in, and you're helping mentor young guys. So I feel like, and it's a longer season as well, so you feel like there's a bit more of your heart and soul in there. So yeah, I think what we did really well, and I think when you find successful teams like the Crusaders at the moment, like what they do well is they call all different things, but that team culture or the theming, and what Ren's, I know he'll do with Australia, is he'll find a way to get them connected back to the people and where they come from. And for the Chiefs, that was really important. We created a sort of a document, and you would have done it many times with team building stuff, where they were, all right, let's come up with some words, and you have like team, like leadership and hard work and that sort of stuff. And then the end of the season comes around, and you ask people what those words are, and no one knows. What we did was we took the Chief logo off the chest, and we gave him some legs, and we called him Jeff. And we themed a lot of our season around him and what he meant, and how we were going to give him legs. And we could have even given him wings now, looking back, because he did so well for us. But that was something that sort of bound us all together. And I think we did a lot of stuff around the community. We went all around the different marae around the Waikato. Went from Waihi to Raglan in a sort of a triathlon race, just to get all around our region. And so that was a really big part of our success, because we had the people behind us and had the team behind us. And so looking at Ren, as a coach, he's as good as they come. And that coaching crew at the Chiefs with Wayne Smith, Tom Coventry, Andrew Strawbridge, when I got injured at the end of that 2012 season, I went into the coaches' room and just to listen to their discussions, and it was almost always a fight, but not a fight, but they would challenge each other on, okay, why do you think that's good? Why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing this? We should do this better. And they would all sort of pick apart each other's area of the game, which I think made them all better and made them all really have to believe in what they were coaching. So looking at Australia, they've inherited probably one of the best coaches in the world, and all I can see from them is they're going to be a team that gets better, and it's a team. You look at when they name the side, it won't be the 15 biggest names. It'll be the 15 guys that can play the best brand of rugby that he wants to play. So I expect to see some new faces, and I expect to see an Aussie team that has a little bit more depth to their side in terms of when their going gets tough. When you look at the last 10 years, the All Blacks, how many games have they won on the buzzer or in the last 5 minutes? And I just expect that Dave will have a big part of changing that part of their game and giving that real toughness and that real belief that they're good enough.
Yeah, no, awesome. And obviously in the last little while, you've probably, you've played against, these guys that have been named in the Wallabies. Is there anyone that stands out? Is there anyone, to sort of look out for that you obviously you've played against the best in New Zealand around the world and just recently against these Wallaby boys? Is there anyone that stands out in your mind to sort of, keep an eye on?
Yeah, I think I'd like to see some of the new faces and how they go. McDermott, the 9 from the Reds, someone like him. There's only a few players that have the out-and-out X factor, and he's somebody that's got plenty. And I think someone in Dave Rennie's team, he would flourish. But I look around. When I came to Super Rugby, I've been in Japan 7 years. I didn't really know who was who. So I really just took players as they played and who I thought performed well. And I think there's a lot of guys, like I said, new faces that could really influence that team or be a part of that team. And like we had a couple out at the force. I think Ronnie Ralston was somebody that really performed above expectations. And I think given that next level of coaching, he could be a really great footy player. But yeah, there's a few, but I'd probably stick McDermott as my to watch guy.
Yeah, no, awesome. He's been definitely consistent and someone who certainly shows a lot of that X factor with his running game and his skill set. So if we just look at, I guess, before you came back, you've spent a lot of time, playing in Japan, and you made me aware before, but you've had a lot of shoulder issues over your career, a number of operations, and all credit to you've still been able to, play at a high level overseas and come back into Super Rugby. Tell us a little bit about, some of those shoulder injuries and how you've still been able to manage the body at this high level.
Yeah, well, that's the greatest disappointment of my career was my body. I mean, it still is now, but to look at it, but the functionality, I mean. Super Rugby, I couldn't get back-to-back seasons in. I did five shoulders in New Zealand, and then I had a 6 little touch-up. So it was pretty much every second season. I could never really get a run on, so I never felt like I got to show my actual ability in New Zealand. That's just probably my biggest regret. That's something I couldn't really control. So then in 2012, I hurt my shoulder, and I'd had enough, and I came home, made the call to my manager. I said, mate, just get me out of here. I just can't do this anymore. It was too tough. And you've been through a few injuries, and if you get those longer term injuries, especially when they're back to back, it's really draining and can put you in a pretty dark place. And so I decided to go overseas, try something new, try to prolong my career, and obviously try and set my family up as well at the same time. And so within sort of a couple of days, ended up going to visit a team in Japan, and it happened really quickly. And I ended up signing with them, and I just officially retired at the beginning of this week from Japan Rugby, which has been sad because I spent 7 years there, and I was meant to go back again this year, but with the coronavirus, it's meant that travel's a little more difficult. But I think what's happened, what's allowed me to stay on the field and stay injury free, I think the season is one thing. Like you'd remember from being up there yourself, the longest season I ever played up there was 14 games, and the shortest season I ever played was 7. So, and that's 7 games in the season. So really short seasons, really long pre-seasons. So you get a lot of time to rest your body in the off season. You get 3 or 4 months off, but then you get to your pre-season. It's a really gradual build over 4 months, and then you get to games, and your body's really ready for the contact. And the hardest thing about playing in New Zealand, especially these guys that are in the All Blacks now, so they'd play in a normal season. They were a bit different now, but they'd play all of Super Rugby. They'd go straight from Super Rugby to the All Blacks, to international rugby or New Zealand Māori or whatever it is, and then come back to Super, have a small break, and then end your tour, and then start again. And it's just constant. There's no real chance for the guys to recoup, and I felt like that was probably the difference for me. I didn't have a body that was capable of going back to back to back to back. So Japan just worked perfectly, and it's been one of the greatest experiences of my life. But now onto the next journey.
Join the club, my mate. Join the club. We're we're all here to back each other up, and it is exciting. There's life after rugby, and there's certainly a good group of people that are certainly around helping one another out. And I'll just touch on. I saw a bit of a video the other day. Peter Latini, he spoke about playing in the All Blacks, and I think he talked about being dropped from the All Blacks while he was in his prime. And he talked about that disappointment, and I think as former All Blacks, we certainly focus on the things that probably didn't go so well, and we kind of wish for things to have gone differently, as an individual. And what I really loved about what Peter said was that we can be really proud about what we did, when we played for the black jersey, and just be really proud of that what we achieved. And I really like that because it just sort of turned the focus a little bit to actually just being proud about what we did achieve. And so on that, bro, just congratulations on a great career, on a long career as well. Some of us aren't so lucky to play for a long time. So again, that's something to be grateful and proud of. So I know you've got a pretty good golf game. Must be getting ready for a bit more golf, and of course time with your beautiful family. So any plans for the near future?
Yeah, we do. So obviously what Alison said, like I think once you're able to step away from the game, you'll appreciate all those things more. And I think every time I've left the team, like I left the Chiefs, I appreciated my time with them more than when I was there, because you don't get those little moments that you get every day. And so I'll even now I look back on my All Black career and I'm really fond of what I did. Well, even though it was less than what I would have loved, but even one game, if someone told me I could get one game as a kid, I would have taken it. But yeah, looking at the next step now, still doesn't look like the ride's over for me yet. It looks like I'm going again, but this time in Super Rugby over in Western Australia. So it's just as much of a sort of off-field role as it is on-field. So it'll still going down that path of rugby, playing and coaching, and then outside of that, but I'm a builder by trade, and I can't wait to get back on the tools when that day finally comes. I've been itching to get the hammer and the apron out of the garage, but I can stay there a little bit longer, because as well as I do, once the rugby career is done, it's done. So I'll give my last year or so to this. Hopefully enjoy it over there in Perth, and then see what happens after that.
Yeah, wonderful, bro, and that's a really good message, for guys that are, sort of looking to not far off finishing rugby is knowing what you love, and then, having an eye on that, and then getting stuck into it, and being present and enjoying, the moment. So, hey, bro, really appreciate your time. Thanks heaps for joining us, and bro, we'll catch up soon.
Yep, we'll catch you on the GC, mate.